Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And we're 2 games out of the 8 Spook.
Spook, did you see that the club has taken issue with Matt Rendell saying that Ned Guy didn't watch much football?
Didn't he?
And they're claiming...
What was he watching?
They're saying that they might take legal action, or Ned Guy is reserving the right to take legal action.
Is he?
So I just want to apologise to the Collingwood Football Club because we've been very, very critical of them for 4 years.
No, it's a constructive criticism, though.
No, this is heartfelt. I do want to apologise because after watching the way they clinically dismantled the might of the North Melbourne Football Club with that humiliating 18-point victory, we are obviously on track for something here special.
Well, we're 2 games out of the 8.
2 games. What did you think of this game?
The little P delivered on his promise.
No. What did you think of this game?
Very little, actually. Look, you went out and you won, which is what you should be doing, considering we believe that we're better than where we currently sit on the ladder. I did find it disappointing, though, that we only won by 18 points. That, and a couple of times they came back.
And just to touch
like
on that,
run over us.
So round 1
across the Super Club.
So these are North Melbourne's losses. 52 points, 59 points, 128 points, 41 points, 30 points, 51 points, 30 points. So we are the lowest margin over them. They do play Hawthorn next week, so that'll be interesting if it's close or...
The Hawks will beat them by 80 points, I reckon.
So, as you said, the first quarter and a bit didn't really look like... It actually looked like it might be a bit of an issue of the game in terms of winning. We pulled away.
I think the term you're looking for is embarrassment.
Yeah, and then we pulled away, and then you go to the third quarter, and you're thinking, all right, well, let's redeem some pride by smashing them. They came back to within about a kick and a half or something.
And they looked a couple of times I thought they were going to run over us.
And I just have to say, good job to the AFL umpires. Some of those decisions were really at pivotal moments to turn the tide against North Melbourne.
I like the way in the game now that you can have a shot at goal, miskick it from 45 metres out, and that's deliberate.
It's amazing. The one against Zabel in the goal square when Darcy Cameron was going to sucker the ball. Zabel? Whatever the fuck his name is. Zabel.
Zabel.
So, I'm just curious about that because I hate that rule. So, Darcy Cameron's just going to soccer the crap out of it. What's Zabel's option? Is his option just to go, here, have a clear run at it? I mean, what he was doing constitutes attempting to smother it, but it took out Darcy Cameron's leg. Really absurd decisions.
Yeah, that was clunky, yeah. I mean, there was about 3 passages, I think. Was that the same one in the first quarter? There was about 3 frees missed.
Yeah.
And it ended up in a north goal, and you're looking thinking, it's basic umpiring 101, surely.
Oh,
but then again, I guess when you have to feel for the umpires, because when you got that much shit in front of you, as that game was, it must be hard to weed through it.
Let me just touch upon jumpers, because we belong to a message group who talks about Collingwood sometimes.
Why?
No, we're morons. And we talk about how good the original jumper looks with the white base rather than the black base, which is the Maguire Collingwood jumper.
Hang on, you're talking about Collingwood's original jumper?
Yeah.
Didn't we have some other sort of colour before this?
No, this is what we've always had.
Haven't we had about 10 years of different colours to get to this one?
No, so this is it.
Oh. But I thought that's how it works.
No, so I actually prefer that white base rather than the black base.
Yes, I do too.
And
with the little white stripe on the outside. Yeah. Black stripe, sorry.
And you won't see this jumper, you won't see that uniform again, the white base and the black shorts.
Are we going prison bars?
We should. I said that. We should use that as a away jumper. You look at quarter to quarter, 2-2 to 3-2, 1-4 to 5-4, 5-1 to 4-4, and then 3-3 to 2 goals. I don't know what it says about the club that, I know they're second last, or they're third last, they've jumped now.
Oh, because we're 2 games out of the 8, did you know that?
Oh, yeah, we'll make that up quick. I know what it says about the club. It really has no killer instinct or anything. I know we're shit now, but they've always lacked that under Buckley. They've always lacked that sort of ability just to put the foot down and just speed away from whoever they're bloody playing.
You're not accusing them of being soft, are you?
Yeah, I am. Darcy Law, forward or back?
Well, that argument's been put to bed, hasn't it? I've been assured. The media, the commentators all told me it's been put to bed.
Jordan the Going, midfield or forward?
No, actually, on this one, I'm really starting to think he's a forward.
That's what I was saying a few weeks ago. It's like try him as a midfielder. If it doesn't look like he may just be a forward. But however, let's qualify this. We played North Melbourne. I'm pretty sure if you put me at full forward... actually, I would have kicked 15, 16 regardless. If we put you at full forward, you would have got 4 or 5 goals.
Easily.
In
the first quarter.
We put it out there to our Twitter audience to talk about how they feel about Collingwood, because we think it's important to actually recognise the way supporters are changing their perception of Collingwood.
Did Rendell respond?
No, he didn't, unfortunately.
You sure?
Aussie
About Bendel. Did Bendel respond?
So these are the comments we got. Aussie Adam Scott, how good's mediocrity?
Is he talking about the Rant?
No, we're exceptional. Jack, been a member for 19 years, can tell within 5 minutes of the game what type of Collingwood has showed up. Overall development of young players at Collingwood makes me extremely worried for the next 5 years. Lowering our expectations of this club will give us less heartache. I think we'll have to start digging holes so we can get even lower.
Can we retrospectively make that like the last 6 decades?
Kyle Armstrong, emotionally draining and financially draining. All support for mediocre performances in and off. Louis, extremely annoyed. The club seems to be in disarray. It's not seems, they are. Problems have been ongoing from the time Buckley took over in the second half of the Maguire presidency. Recruiting, playmaking, salary and injuries. We are no longer a powerhouse club. We need a complete overhaul. Old Blue Eyes, 2 flags in 63 years. You can't complain with Frank, or you can't argue with Frank Sinatra.
It's good to see Frank up and about, though.
This guy commented again. Paul Robinson, is he stalking us or something?
Oh, I mean, seriously.
Jesus, Paul.
Any value?
No.
I would have thought so.
With the team we will have next year, Jesus Christ will be flat out making the reserves. And just, he's quoting the movie The Club. He doesn't actually...
Did I? I thought I made that up. He made that up on the spot.
Peter Katzenbarnes, those 8th and 9 round draft picks later this year will unearth the next Fothergill and Rose, and then we'll trade them to North. These guys must be related. Ross Katzenbarnes, like being kicked in the guts every day at the moment. Rudderless from the president down. I'm shattered we can't win grand finals. 218 hurts so much. Angry that the club seems to be incompetent and doesn't seem to care about members. We are mediocre at best. CSM, that's short. Super Coacher, just to show that...
Is that Barks?
Yes, it is. Or Robert Harvey. Our window was short and unsuccessful. I think that's redundant when, talking about a Collingwood window.
Please don't write to us about your house.
So we need to rebuild to be a better, more sustainable premiership window. It's possible at this stage to say if that will happen. It's impossible to say at this stage to say if that will happen.
Apparently impossible to read.
Yeah. But a list clear out in the off-season was necessary. If a long and hopefully prosperous journey starts now, I'm going to go back to that one in a minute. Tennessee Cal, very draining and demoralising. The Buckley era has been excruciating to endure. It feels like a never-ending cycle of suffering, and I can't wait till he's gone. However, no matter how bad it gets, I love the club regardless. CFC till I die. Well done, Tennessee Cal. Just because the people talk about the list clean out, look, I think the thing people don't recognise is while there's a lot of smoke around the trade-outs of Treloar, Phillips and Stevenson.
And Atu.
Yeah. Well, he is, because they played it in a couple of games last year. You also got to factor in that they lost guys like Langdon, Aish, Beams, Scharenberg. So that whole middle core just got gutted. And now what you're seeing, obviously, is you're relying on all these really young players to carry them, and it's just not...
Well, didn't we identify that they're all up-and-coming superstars? Isn't that why we drafted them in the first place?
How much do you think, how much better are a lot of these players going to look...
If they got haircuts?
If they were playing in a better system?
It's too early to tell, though. They could be playing in a better system, we just haven't seen it yet.
Well, under Buckley's... I don't know what you call it, under Buckley's coaching... You've had 10 years to get this right.
Well, 11 years a charm, you know what they say.
Oh. Now, one of his critics in the...
Is that you?
One of his other critics in the paper is Matt Rendell.
What nuggets has Matt had this week?
It's just actually curious, because I went back a little bit. He said last year, play more in the ruck and trade Grundy to Sydney.
Just to Sydney?
Yeah.
No one else? We can't go and talk to anyone else?
No, because they needed the ruckman, so he was identifying needs, and he was talking about going for Cameron and stuff like that, which, I think he says he'll win the Brownlow if he plays in the ruck and change him with Mason Cox forward. He went on to talk about if they sent Mason Cox to Bulldogs if Collingwood got Cameron, which we obviously didn't do.
But we've got Darcy Cameron.
Well, he's actually looking good.
So maybe Rendell was talking about him.
About Buckley coaching next year. At the end of 2017, they do a review, and the review basically came out as, Nathan, you got to let people do their jobs, you can't control everything. If I said Bucks was a controlling person, 100% of people at the footy club would say, yes, he is. People ask me, what's the culture like at the football? I go, it's a culture of mistrust. No one trusts anyone to do their job, and needs to change.
I'd fully agree with that, unless Buckley tells me I shouldn't.
He credited Justin Longmuir with getting the team organised and says his side has regressed to 2017 levels pre-Longmuir. Then he talked about like going into the Essendon game, after the Essendon game, sorry, they brought in Jay Roundtell, he's a running machine. I've gone, what perfect opportunity to put him on Darcy Parish or Zach Merritt? No, he was stuck in the forward line. Why would you bring in a midfielder who's a running machine? I thought he might learn something playing on one of those two blokes that he wouldn't learn in his next 10 games.
We're not there to learn things, we're there to win games.
And of the list management, that was the list management monumental stuff up of not only 1 but 2 or 3 years. Everyone has to take responsibility for that list management group. He was trying to manage the guys trying to manage the outcome the best he could. He didn't have much cards to deal with because everyone knew it was a fire sale. I just think
they had discount tags written on them.
I think they looked burnt too. He still believes we can contend next year. If you go and do their best 25, I think they're still capable. I still think they have the basis of a very good team. Do you believe in that?
I've said that. I still think, and I have to think that that's going to be the case. I think there is a lot of potential there. You don't go from where we went and fall off the face of the earth.
I can say that. We've proven you can.
I know, but I still think a lot of that influences beyond that playing group's control. If you stabilise the bleeding of this club and you get something in there that puts some system and structure behind them, I think the elevation of that playing list would go back up. It can't go down any further, can it?
Oh, can. We're 16th, so we can go down 2 positions.
But we're 2 games out of the 8.
Yeah, well, that'll increase. If you look at, though, what they'd need to happen next year is what they really needed to happen this year to contend.
A new coach.
Besides that, they just need to have an injury-free year. And we know that's not going to happen. You got Pendlebury will be 34 next year. Sidebottom will be 31. Howe's now going off the surgery for his hamstring, so he won't play again this year.
No. No chance whatsoever.
So for Howe, that's going to be basically 18 months out of the game with only a handful of games at the start of the year.
That's how old is he now?
He's 31. He'll be going on 31, I think.
That's the end.
I would... Look,
he could play another year, but really, how serviceable is he?
At the start of the year, like, I know he was coming off a knee, and usually players coming off knee injuries, they take about a year just to get back into it. No, he is just trying to get clobbered by some GWS guy. But if you look at him, the way he played earlier this year, I thought he really looks like he's lost a bit of a step, and now he's going to have this added to everything. It's a lot worse. And then you're going to lose definitely Maine and Greenwood. So that means...
That's a shame.
It's a shame, but it just means that, like, okay, so Maine's pretty much a senior regular. Once he goes, you're going to expose another vacancy. So that means another young, untried kid's got to come up. So you're relying on still more youth. Guys like Josh Thomas...
Oh, hang on, but we've got a lot of money in the cap space now. So can't we just go and buy seasoned players?
Well, we go buy Kristen Petraka. I mean, we were told that's done.
It's a done deal.
It's a done deal.
You heard that 12 months ago it was a done deal. They just had to iron out the kinks.
Yep, and... He's kinked it right up.
Like him signing another contract. I don't think they anticipated that.
Well, he's signed for 7 years, but he's still contracted for another 18 months, so he's there for 8.5 years. So we might get him after that, possibly. Yeah, I think that's a chance.
That'd be good. What's he like in a Zimmer frame? He's still got all the moves?
I don't know. But we had this discussion with someone else. Is like, well, we get a free agent.
Are they free, are they?
Well, someone like,
we could do with a couple of freebies.
So someone like Zach Merritt. But why would someone want to come to us? Why would someone... Historically, if you look at the way the free agencies worked, they're going to the better clubs.
You come for the jumper, don't you?
No, you come for the money.
Isn't that the way it works?
You come for the money, and then Collingwood's just...
Because they're throwing away at Collingwood. It's
apparently, they've just cleared their cap space, and it's like, well, okay, now let's spend $1 million on getting someone like Zach Merritt.
Well, why wouldn't you?
Why would you?
Because history doesn't repeat, does it?
I just don't think it's...
I think that's a smart move by the Collingwood Football Club, don't you?
I think you and your best mate Matt Riddell are off. I don't think we're going to contend next year, unless everyone else falls over. Jordan Lewis said, and I've been watching some of his analysis. I think he's really good, because you get a lot of his commentators are just morons. Some of the new ones coming in, like Lewis, Lloyd, I like Brad Johnson, Nick Rewalt, actually provide some really good insight compared to what you get from some of the other...
What about Kath Lognan?
She just really hosts. I don't know.
I like her though.
Good on you. Jordan Lewis, I don't think they'll threaten Collingwood as a premiership contender in the next 3 or 4 years, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, fucking hell.
I think it would be more 2024 or 2025 where you can assemble young talent. They don't have much at the draft this year. They'll get Nick Dacos, but there isn't much more than that, so it'll be a year missed.
Don't we just trade for picks?
Yeah, well, how long do we...
The cupboard's pretty full, isn't it, at Collingwood? We've got plenty we can still offload.
We've got like pick 33 or something.
Yeah,
well, the only thing a year like this is going to do is, unless you're offloading someone like a De Goey or more, what are you going to get for a Huskinelli, for example?
Yeah, not much.
Well, if they offload
chips, maybe.
Even like if they offload like one of the next tier guns, like someone like Braden Maynard, they're probably not going to get anything more than, I'm guessing, just about a pick 20.
Well, you're saying they've set a precedent about the way that we trade, that you think people would take advantage of us?
No, I'm just saying, because we're having an excruciatingly bad year. All these players are suffering depreciation. So what are you going to get?
Oh, that's the point.
If you went back 3 years ago and you floated Hoskin-Nillett on the market, you probably would have gotten a pick 20 or something.
But the other problem is we're probably paying each of these players $7.5 million a year. And you're going to have someone else pick up these contracts.
I think what they'll do in a couple of years, the AFL, is they'll play... You know how they had the state matches? Victoria versus... South Australia and West Australia and all that? I think in a couple of years you'll have Collingwood versus all the players Collingwood are paying at other clubs. And it'll just be, 22 versus 22.
So instead of state of origin, we can have state of disarray.
State of Collingwood, yeah. Lee Montagna said a few weeks ago, for me, what I noticed about this weekend's game, I think the senior players have lost hope in this season.
He said that a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's very he's got good foresight.
Part of the program at Collingwood is that, organised by Nick Maxwell, is to get former players to come back and sit with Nathan Buckley in the coach's box.
Yeah, Tony Shaw was there last week, I believe.
Yeah. And
who was it this week?
No, I don't know. Probably Robert Harvey. Tony Shaw. Nothing that I saw could even make me think about him not being able to coach.
Was Tony Shaw in the right box?
There was no panic. Very analytical.
He wasn't in the dunny, was he?
I find funny is like whenever they cut the Buckley, he's just sort of looking like stupefied, and it's like, well,
he's not very animated, is he?
No, unless there's something grotesquely going wrong. He's just sort of sitting there going, like, I don't know what to do.
I see the odd grimace, but occasionally I see a hand above, sort of just moving, like there's a string or something.
Tony Shaw, it's not up to me, but I think the bloke can coach. We should re-sign him.
I mean, really, he's an endorsement that you'd look back on with fond memories of coaching, wouldn't you?
Alright, so there is still media hubbub about re-signing Buckley. The only guy I really know who came out against it was Matthew Lloyd and said, why? And the biggest defence, I mean, Wayne Carey wrote an article, is he's the best available.
No, he's... Really? Because... I don't know. I do not understand any of this justification for it. We've covered this. He's obviously a good bloke, and people will go into bat for him. But your record is speaking volumes about where we're at, and no, it's not all his fault. And we don't want to rehash this and beat the dead horse again. I just don't understand what they see.
I don't understand the logic. I really have about this is the best available. Why would you go for an untried coach? It's like, well, they did go for an untried coach in him. So,
well, it's even worse than that because he served no apprenticeship, really. What, he did 1 year under Mick?
2 years. 2 years. 10 and 11 he did.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a fact. I mean, how hard do you work when you know you're getting the job anyway?
I don't know. But I mean, how much... I think the real shame with Nathan Buckley and Tony Shaw is both have good ideas as coaches. I thought Tony Shaw came up with some good stuff back in the 90s.
Some funny stuff.
Well, no, he was doing things like playing zones, which wasn't really common then.
The playbook.
He had the playbook, which was, I guess it was lateral thinking.
There's a bit of Pink Floyd in there.
He had all the guns lined up at half-back. So he did some really nice things, but there was obviously other stuff he didn't do as well. And you think, if these guys went away and experienced different cultures and then came back...
I think that's... at Collingwood, that has to be mandatory that you do that. You need to go and experience life on the other side of the fence before you come back.
Well, if you look at, like, Collingwood's favourite son, so... Buckley's been coached for 10 years without a flag. He's probably going to end up second, third, last this year. Maybe a little bit higher, maybe, if they're lucky. Tony Shaw coached him to a wooden spoon and missed the finals. Mm-hmm. Murray Weedman coached him to a wooden spoon.
That was only 1 year, though, wasn't it? Or 2 years, did he
2 years, I think.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of administrative disarray at that time.
Back then.
Oh, well, they went to a grand final the following year.
It's a cool thing, you know. It's not like
But
it's ever happened before.
then they bring in these damn foreigners like Mick Malthouse, who coached them to a flag, like Lee Matthews, who coached them to a flag, and then Tom Hafey was, I think, the first non-Collingwood coach, a guy who hadn't played at Collingwood, and he coached them to 5 grand finals, if you include the draw. Why would you go for these foreigners? Why would you go for people who have not seen or known anything about Collingwood, who walk into this culture, obviously can identify where it's full of shit?
You just poke it and it oozes.
Yeah, and, you know, it's like, you look at, I know it's a different era, but you go back to the 77 grand final, 5 goals up at three-quarter time, the administrators come on and start congratulating the players on winning the flag. And Tom Hafey, and this is documented, you can find these, I'm pretty sure, on YouTube, but I've seen Tom Hafey talks about it. He goes, Tom Hafey was a gentleman, but he basically said, I had to tell him to shut the fuck up. This isn't done yet. This isn't won. So you go to the 1990 grand final where Lee Matthews kept all the, you know, the
paraphernalia
and all
out of the rooms.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, fuck, we don't need all this shit. Focus. And it's like, that to me shows the different attitudes. Like I said, I know there's a different eras, there's 13 years between them, but it shows you that Matthews comes from this successful culture. It's like, we don't have to pump it up. We don't have to hype it. We don't have to fucking build it up more than it is. If you don't understand what the fuck a grand final is, then you probably shouldn't be out there. So, I really think whoever the next coach is, they need to get someone from so far out of the Collingwood system. And, you know, I mean,
Totally agree.
There's probably a few ex-Collingwood players, guys like Scott Burns, who might start floating on the radar. And I just hope, no offence to Scott Burns, just go so far away from this.
Just say no thanks. Not this time.
Yep. You know, so I do hope they look for someone totally different. Ex-player watch, Bulldogs defeated Blues by 16 points, draw, 12 kicks, 11 handballs, 3 marks, 9 tackles, 65% disposal efficiency. Did you watch this game?
A little bit, yeah.
I actually thought Treloar had some pivotal touches in the last quarter when they were trying to swing momentum back in the centre to help to start the chain for clearances. And I've just seen he's gotten criticism as usual for his brain kicks and shit like that. It's like,
it's almost normal human behaviour though. When something of quality moves away, you want to denigrate it.
While doing it while he was there. Eagles defeated Hawthorn by 38 points. Phillips 15 kicks, 7 handballs, 6 marks, 1 tackle, 64% disposal efficiency. So the people who criticise those two about the disposal, I guess is the week to sing. You know, I mean, it's the 1 week that they've both had poor disposal. In 8 games, I think they've been, what do you consider acceptable disposal efficiency? I'd say about 70%.
At Collingwood?
At Collingwood, about 40% across the board.
Oh, yeah, Collingwood, 35%
Yeah.
be positive. No, across the board, I mean, you're probably looking, you would say anything around 75% plus would be a good return.
So I think in 6 games they've had that. And Collingwood defeated North by 18 points. Stevenson, 11 kicks, 8 handballs, 6 marks, 1 tackle, 2 goals, 2 points, 79% disposal efficiency.
How many times did you look at him, though, and think, geez, you'd be handy? You'd be a handy type of player to have, wouldn't you?
I look at everyone is gone. It's like, why? I mean, we've talked about it, but it's like, of course they'd be handy.
Yeah.
It's absurd that, you know, people try and rationalise, we could do without him. Well, you're seeing what happens. Yeah. And the thing that really shits me, I'll get angry again, is I've seen people who kept assuring me and arguing with me in the off-season, we'll be fine, they know what they're doing, we can cover these players, and then they're throwing up the Murphys and the size.
You seriously have to keep away from the psychiatric wards.
It's like, alright, I said at the time, well, we'll see. Okay, but now we're seeing. And now these people are backtracking, going, we're pumping games and the youngsters would be. So they've totally changed the narrative. They haven't acknowledged how fucking grotesquely wrong they were. They haven't come to me and said, yeah, you were right about this. They'll keep sort of saying stuff like, oh, no, you're just being negative about it. It's like, no, I'm being realistic. Because if I was being negative, then we wouldn't be 16th. But we are 16th, so I'm actually realistic, because this is what I wasn't realistic enough, because I thought they were going to finish 10th, and they're miles off that.
We had that stupid sliver of optimism come into the discussions early on the year.
I had them at 10th, so I always had them like 10th. I didn't think they'd make the 8.
8 to 12, I think, is where I had them.
You look at the bottom 3 teams, North Melbourne, Hawthorn and Collingwood. They are so far below everyone else. Gold Coast is showing a little bit here and there, so they're looking a little bit promising. Adelaide, they're a bit topsy-turvy, but like the 3 at the bottom are just looking like absolute no-hopers at the moment. Now, maybe that'll change over the course of the year when we get players back along.
I think we'll still snatch a few wins. We'll always have our pseudo-grand final win against Richmond or something.
I think the really funny thing is, in any other year, like you get back to 205 and, we had a really bad year. And it got to that point where people go, well, let's just tank and get draft picks. And it's like, you can't even do that now because your draft picks going to GWS.
No, but you've got next year.
Yeah, well, if we
To
tank.
tank. That's not like we're not putting the line through the option. We still have scope to tank.
But we probably are, because what will happen to get Nick Dacos, we'll have to trade into next year, use next year's draft currency.
But it equates the amount of points required, I think. I don't fully understand the system. I don't think anyone does. But let's say you have to, you need 2,000 points and you're 150 short. You can then dip into next year for that 150. So unless I've misunderstood, I don't think you need to use an early pick to make up the deficit.
We're about 1,000 short though.
Or
so.
maybe you do, I don't know. But maybe someone who understands it can put in the comments. But I think you can also say, well, this value of this range of picks should be this. I don't know. But then how would you know what it is? So I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. Have I made that clear? I don't know.
I don't know what you're on about.
Did you know that we're only 2 games out of the 8 though?
So I imagine, if you use points from last year, then when those picks come up, then it's taken away from them.
Well, you go in the deficit for next year. So at some point you've got to pay the piper with something.
Yeah. So if you had like a pick,
so maybe it's just a readjustment of the pick. Maybe if your first round pick's valued at 2,000 next year, you then go maybe up a pick or something.
Yeah. All right. So again, next year's draft currency
slightly compromised.
Yeah, well, we don't know how much slightly is, so it's going to depend where Nick Dacos goes. I mean, if anyone was smart, they would have been going to Nick, Nick, just play shit this year and we'll pick you up with pick 98.
Yeah, so I don't understand. I mean, let's say that we finish 17th and North finishes last, which is likely, and North use their first round pick on Nick, and we have to match the bid. What's the advantage for North doing that when things are so close? Wouldn't you make more of a speculative grab for someone if you were a little bit further back? And we're obviously not talking about someone that's clearly probably going to be number 1, but if it's someone a little bit more in the range of 10, wouldn't you be saying, well, I think I'd like him, I'll bid this. But then, if you don't, you've got your eye on someone else. But surely North would have to say, well, it's probably a fait accompli. He goes to Collingwood no matter what. We have to be very clear with who our number 1 pick's going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I believe Dacos is going through the interview process with other clubs, so...
Well, he's training with us. I don't think he'd be going to somewhere else, would he?
Oh, if I trained with us, I'd be going somewhere else.
So wouldn't that just completely fuck us right up if that happened? That would be the end of the club as you know it.
If Nick Dacos were to choose another club, and let's remember, he's not a Collingwood supporter, he was a Carlton supporter growing up.
Oh, jeez, I mean, seriously, what's wrong with him?
And I understand his brother's there, but if they re-sign Buckles, we don't know if that's Josh will stay. If Nick Dacos was to go elsewhere, I think Collingwood might as well just fold.
You got nothing to show. Absolutely nothing. We have nothing. Pick 33 or something, or that'd be our. That'd be it.
But that's the whole thing too of I believe your draft strategy last year or this year was to trade into the draft and pick up all these other guys because you had a guarantee of a really quality player coming in next year.
Does Nick actually have a say in where he goes in this? Because isn't it just like anyone else? You go where you're told to go?
He can decline to go father-son though.
But still, we could then just say, well, we take him with our... No, we can't.
We can't. No, because we don't have...
that on.
No. I mean, if we finish second last and have
we are a stupid club, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
So, surely it's got to be done. It has to be a done deal. Like the Petrarca thing was a done deal. You got to have faith in them. They know what they're doing.
I would be really... And Melbourne's a really good comparison, just as an aside. So I was watching Melbourne play Sydney.
Why?
Because it was actually a half-decent match. And I was looking at Melbourne thinking, okay, you look at... They went out and recruited Lever. They recruited May. They went, drafted that Luke Jackson. They got Ben Brown as a trade really cheaply. They've got Tom McDonald from ages ago. They got the best ruckman, I believe, in the league in Max Gawn. They got a really classy small forward in Cosy Pickett. Then they got guys like Petrarca and Nathan Jones and all that. It's it's a really...
astute picking of players.
But it's also they really built the team well, where as you compare them to our build, it's we need a full forward. Well, I know this American basketballer. He's never played the game, but we'll bring him down.
Take a lump of something and throw it against the wall and see what sticks.
Who's your centre-half forward?
Anyone this week.
A mid-aged rookie defender. And I love Brody Mychek, but it's okay, so who's your full back? Well, we're getting a guy who Melbourne's not playing anymore, Lyndon Dunn. He's injured. Or getting a guy the Bulldogs aren't playing anymore. And, like, okay, they're really good Moneyball picks. But you've really, outside of Darcy Moore, invested very little in the key position talent.
That's it.
You know, and they've picked up a
handful
handful
of it for years.
And you've relied on guys like your Corey Golds and your Jonathan Marshes and your Jack Frost, these real sort of speculative later picks, hoping that one of them will come up. And they might have, you know, but they didn't. But you're hoping that one of them might have come up to fill a hole because you haven't traded.
Like Magden.
Yeah, you know, Magden's like 28, so how long is he going to have in the system? He's more of a third tall anyway. I don't know why I said that the other week, I don't know why Scharenberg was dumped. Given what they have at the club, I thought there'd be about 8 other players who'd have got to before.
Was he out of contract?
Yeah. I'm guessing Scharenberg would have been on a little bit more than base.
I think everyone at Collingwood's on a little bit more than base. I mean, a fuck of a lot more than base I think the rumour mill is to be believed.
I think Scharenberg's also part of the salary cap purge. I think he's on more than, you know, I don't know what he would have been on, but I think they said, well, get rid of him and then we just pay someone else who have drafted base salary. That's my opinion as to why he's gone. But you look at the Melbourne's list bill, it's really similar to Collingwood's list bill from 2006-2010, where we addressed the spine and we addressed the midfielders and all that sort of stuff. Whereas now it's like, I don't know, you picked up about 28 flankers in the draft.
You can never have enough.
And then, you know, you look at, like I said, I really like Darcy Cameron. I said it ages ago, I like the way he moves. You know, I always sort of judge taller players by how well they move and cover the ground. But again, they've gone on the ruckman to play forward. It's like, well, maybe get a forward to fucking play forward.
We'll get a forward to play ruck.
I'll get a forward to play utility. Did you see what Port Adelaide did with the prison bar jumper?
How could you miss it?
So they beat Adelaide in the Derby. They weren't allowed to wear their prison bar jumper. We denied them their heritage, even though their heritage is a teal lightning jumper.
It's take your pick, really.
And when they went into the rooms, they changed into their prison bar jumper and they sang their song.
What a bunch of absolute flogs.
Well,
seriously. I don't give a fuck where they wear that jumper in the game, but that move is just stupid. And you know what's really fucking getting annoying with this? How the media's turned this into a Koch versus Maguire thing. Cock, is it?
Well, how do you pronounce Epoch? E-P-O-C-H?
E-Koch? E-Posh?
So his surname's K-O-C-H. So it should be Cock. It should be Cock on pronunciation.
So Cock and Maguire are going to be at this for about another 16 years.
Well, Maguire's not even fucking associated with the club anymore.
And that's the other bit that's really starting to fucking annoy me. Is he Mr. Go-To quote now? Is that what his legacy's going to be moving forward? He's just now a supporter like the rest of us. Why don't you go and fucking chase the president for a quote? The little P, he's got a lot to say. I don't think he probably, now that we're 2 games out of the 8, he's probably so ecstatic, he doesn't even know that they were wearing the prison bar jumper.
I've said it for years, I actually don't care if Port wear that jumper.
No, I don't care.
In heritage games, I've said it before. I'd actually make it like a
flog moves like this are a bit of a different story.
I was going to get, but like you get all those sort of trophies for meaningless games, trying to pump them up. And I always said it'd be good if Collingwood Port played for the jumper, so whoever lost had to wear an alternate script the next time they played. I reckon that would really intensify the rivalry. So actually, not a staunch defender of Collingwood's tradition. I mean, and the other thing is Maguire changed a jumper 20 years ago, so apparently, hey. We're not that precious about a fucking jumper. We've never won the jumper with the black base, regardless of what they say. I've spoken to people at the Footy Jumpers website. But seriously, what Port did, if I was Collingwood president, I would now be going to court and going, okay, we're going to...
But what's the little P say? Is he coming out? Is he angry?
I would have...
word.
If I was
a peep.
If I was at Collingwood, I would be going, we're going to fucking make sure these trademarks are honoured. You can never wear it again. You did this to us. Fine, you slapped us. We're going to fucking slap you back.
Okay. So I can imagine, though, he's got one of those, like the old cardboard ladders you used to have as a kid. You know, how you took the slots out and moved them around. He's just sitting there marvelling that we're 2 games out of the 8. It's just like, everyone's walking past the office. He's calling them in going, hey, just have a look. 2 games out of the 8.
He's doing all the permutations. He's going, if these guys win and, if...
Hey, little P, they wore the prison bars. 2 games out of the 8.
The one thing I'll say about Port when they showed them going into their rooms in the black and white jumper is...
You thought you were watching a convict film.
No, on the rear wall, there was a big slogan which said, we exist to win premierships.
So you know you're not in the Collingwood rooms when you see that.
And I've got to say, I know Port's only 1-1, but I've got to say, fuck, I really respect that they have that there.
I wish we had that attitude.
Yeah. I really sort of feel like, I respect that. I just wish you weren't dicks about the fucking jumper.
But Collingwood's got a very similar slogan on the wall. Actually, they've got about 48 slogans at last count. About all range of social issues that we exist to alleviate.
I'm pretty sure we have...
Winning flags, though, it's not one of them. I think it fell on the ground. It's under the chair.
I think we have a slogan that says, we exist to serve soup.
Well, there's a lot of soup to be served. We exist not to win flags.
How much did you take out of that victory over North?
Very little.
So, what do you think about our game against Sydney?
Oh, I think we could be in for a bit of a shellacking. Sydney are playing well at the moment.
They are. Historically, what do you want to call it? Recent history, we tend to have close ones with them?
I don't think in this case we can rely on recent history all that much. We're going to be without Murphy, Roughhead,
and Jeremy Howe now is having hamstring surgery.
Despite being assured that he was almost ready to play last week and he'd be definitely out there this week, he's out for the rest of the season. Such is the Collingwood way. But aren't we short another? Are we losing someone else this week? I mean, there is a couple of days of training, so it could be the whole list that's gone. But we'll be going in there undemand.
Trent Bianco had a really good game in the reserves. His first official game in black and white.
Yeah, 29 touches and a couple of goals or something. I did watch that VFL game.
Tom Wilson's been good, so he could come in.
Yeah, well, he's been good for about a month. He's a good size too. So what do we bring him in as? Probably
pocket.
Back pocket.
Forward pocket.
Back pocket.
I would probably play the forward line of Wilson, Cameron, and Bianco.
Yeah,
that would be my forward line.
Would it?
Yeah, I mean, Bianco's Bianco's like Caleb Daniel. He'd be that halfback specialist.
He's a height challenge person, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, so's Caleb Daniel. So
good mark though. Jeez, he was pulling them down against the Blues the other day.
But he's a beautiful kid, Caleb Daniel. It's always sort of said, in terms of if you're going to play in a league where the players are, the evolution is going towards bigger players, you need to have a standout feature. Bigger players. Yeah, you need to have a feature that stands out.
Players.
In bigger players. What's your tip?
Swans by 42.
What do you see as the point of the rest of the season? Is it just to get games in the kids, or is it to get the coaching staff displaced, or is it...
Oh, I'm not changing from my belief that I'm seriously living in hope that the EGM goes ahead, the board is spilled, it's replaced with a whole brand new ticket. Knock-on effect from that is the entire coaching staff is looked at and whisked away. And then really, who's left? By the time we have the remaining injuries, it'll be just a kids' fest out there. But the thing is, what grates on all this is that no matter how low we plummet, we have nothing to show for it this year.
Let me ask you a hypothetical.
Nick Davis isn't going to make...
Nick Dacos.
I said that once as a gag, and I just can't get it out of my head now. He's not going to turn this club around next year.
Well, you can't expect him at 18 to be turning the club around.
He looks incredibly good to have, and I'm loving Josh's midfield time at the moment. So the prospect of them two running around the midfield, I get quite excited about, and that's the things that that keep you going as an older gent. You should know this, that these periods where you're down, it can be invigorating as a supporter to watch the growth and the potential. We're not going to get that with the current setup that we have. So there has to be a release of the shackles, and this stuff needs to change to get excitement to go into the next phase. I don't give a fuck about winning games this year. I want to
fortunate we're not going to do it,
and it's probably the right attitude to take. But I want to see development. I want to see kids start making positions their own, and see that growth that you can take into the next year under a new coach.
Aren't you dubious, though, that Buckley played Josh Dacos in the middle when he was performing so well as a defensive half forward?
Or on the wing.
What would you do if they re-signed Buckley? Because
let me just. It's a statement I can make now, though. Obviously, I'll reconsider it, but I'd probably just not watch.
No, because I've had friends tell me this. They're not going to go to games while the current regime.
I'll come back when we're winning again.
And when I say the current regime, it's not just Buckley, it's everyone up. So, I've had that from people. As I said, you look at social media, whereas the sheep used to outweigh the constructive criticism, now the constructive criticism is outweighing the sheep. The sheep, to me, it's seriously delusional, the way they continue to champion aspects of the club. Like, there was all the methodology to this.
For these people, change must be the easiest thing to absorb then. So we gut the board, we put a whole new coaching structure in place. The easiest thing in the world these people do next year is turn up with their love.
What do you say about people who just feel like, Buckley's coming good now, it'd be the wrong time to get rid of him?
Hey, you can fuck off.
So how long do you think before we can turn it around and go back into contention? You like Matt Rendell can still contend and win next year?
No, but I think we can improve next year. I don't think we can contend.
No, it's third last.
But I'm probably in the who was it? Lewis.
Jordan Lewis.
Yeah, it's probably going to be at least 3 or 4 years before things get serious. And again, that's because we just don't have that ageing list that's going to carry these guys into it.
No, not like 206 and 210.
And this is that real dangerous precipice thing that if the age players collapse and you're relying on a whole bunch of kids and you can't go out and backfill some of that seniority to be out in the ground. I mean, you look at the way that getting Hodge up to Brisbane for 2 years must have helped with that on-field coaching. You stand here, you do that. When he looks here, you say that. That wealth of experience just won't be there. They're going to be learning the hard way in the deep end.
But there's no guarantee you'll learn, because you look at like Carlton and Melbourne prior to now.
Keep being shit.
You don't have that framework to provide that leadership and example. So, and unfortunately, I mean, I look at like a lot of the careers of a lot of the younger players, and I think you have talent, but because you're there, I think you're fucking doomed. If you ended up at that club, you probably would have had a great career because you would have come up in a better environment. You wouldn't have come up with such pressure on you. You would have come up with better coaches and all that sort of stuff. So it's real sort of sliding door for a lot of players. And you look at like Collingwood, you sort of think Pendlebury is still your best player at 33. I mean, I guess Darcy Moore arguably could be your best player. The Goey, we just don't know what we're going to get.
Oh, he's come good though. He's back on track this week.
I mean, disappointing thing with the Goey is 218 he was such a powerhouse player, and he really hasn't built on that in any way. And then you get guys like Maynard and Adams and Grundy and Crisp. It's not a sort of framework where you think it's a great place to be plugging players in. I don't know if they can do what they did in 2001, where they picked up Clement, Holland, Wakeland, Steinfurt, Malloy, and I sort of just plug those guys in.
There's every chance we can go back to those guys and see what they're doing next year.
Probably can. The environment the landscape doesn't exist now where you can pick up those sort of players inexpensively as they did back then.
As you said earlier, unless it's completely money motivated, under what godly reason would you leave a club to come to Collingwood at the moment?
Well, the flip side is, you're going to lose the going more. They have constantly explored other options.
Well, that would be the bottom falling out almost of your future.
If the Goey went, I mean, and this is the argument too, is like you get rid
of... That's assuming the Goey improves or not improves, but gets consistent. Consistency is his issue.
But the thing with the Goey is, if you look at someone like Geelong or one of those top 4 teams, and you plug the Goey in, that's going to immediately improve the shit out of it.
But the thing is, surely with the way that Collingwood talks, though, none of them are mentally conditioned to think that premierships are a measure of success. So maybe they're happy just to wallow in mediocrity.
Yeah, but if these guys are actually looking at free agency, it's about the money. It's not about the success. So
so they can go and be mediocre somewhere else.
Oh, they can do that too. But what would you get for these guys too? I don't know what the AFL formula is for compensation. It's bizarre. I mean, what was it like? Ablett was pick 19 and then Frawley was pick 3.
But it's like you said previously, you take that route, you seriously risk becoming the new Carlton. And you're throwing low picks at things that you just hope come good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you know you've got established talent, you should be nurturing it, cultivating it, and watching it grow. Not giving it away for nothing. But it's too late for some of that. It's that robbing Peter to pay Paul argument, I guess, in some respects. That do you give up quality to hopefully get quality in, but what if you don't get the quality in?
I don't know, but you have the Arsenal now to rebuild, or you're going to be waiting 2 years to get picks back into the club. And no, in Collingwood, they'll trade next year's picks for some magic beans or something.
No doubt. But I mean, we'd either have to give something away of quality again at the end of this year to get picks, which, we proved last year how good at that we are. But we don't really, apart from a couple of players, we just don't have anything, I think, of trade value.
All that's I'm saying is, like, what would you get for the going out? What would you get for more? If you're proactive and traded them out.
They're about the only ones that would hold trade value.
Maynard might get a bit. The others I don't think are going to get.
And you wouldn't give up Josh Dacos or anything like that. But
well, I don't know. They're a pretty stupid club.
You wouldn't give him up on the eve of trying to woo his brother in, though.
I wouldn't be giving up anyone under 24. Because these players are going to be the future. This is why really what bewilders me about Stevenson is like, what did they see that they said this guy will not be a 10-year player?
I don't think even they fucking know that one.
And there's like talk about other players they could have gotten rid of instead. And again, not knowing what happened behind the scenes.
You jettison 100 players, surely.
But that would have been like this guy. I can understand Trelawker's sort of late 20s and all that sort of stuff. I can understand Phillips. He's the sort of accumulator. You think, okay, we can probably replace that relatively easy. Josh Dacos had a good year. The Stevenson one has got pace and skills and all that. It's like, well, what do you think you have there that you're covering that departure? And that to me, I still don't have an answer for. There's no one on that list who covers what he brings unless they thought Hoskin Elliott was going to do it. It's really just staggered. It still staggers me when I see him running around in North Melbourne colours. It's like, what did you guys see? Or was it purely just a personality clash of some sort with the Brains Trust and they said, well, he's going to go? And if that's the case, then I really want to put Eddie Maguire back in as president.
Surely it was a simple case of you thought you were going to get a lot more for them, but once you floated them, you've made the bed.
But you look at guys like Papley at Sydney. I mean, Sydney's done it a few times. I think Ryan O'Keefe years ago. Essendon did it with Danaher. Is they put them on? Well, they didn't put them on the market, but those guys were on the market and they tried to get deals done. They didn't work, and they came back to the club. And Papley's been really good for Sydney. From memory, Ryan O'Keefe was really good. So you can take him back into the fold. It's just what's happening with that money situation. As we've heard, that the salary cap is still really tight and they're going to shed someone else. Maguire's claiming it's fine. So I don't know. Final thoughts? I agree.
Just watch the game on the weekend and that's about it. Drink a lot of beer as usual and
I might try and
come back here and scream at a camera on Monday night.
Cool. Is it Monday? Anyway, subscribe, sign, hit us up on social media.
All the usual.
All the usual stuff.
You know the drill by now. Have you been watching for more than 8 seconds?
Later.
See ya.